The power of faith. Summary. This chapter is about the enemy of religion called Ubhay. Preparation of the trench, Jabir's feast, the Battle of Trench, Ali Amr, the journey to Umrah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and the Sahabis taking refuge in our Prophet. A horseman could be seen from far away. This man was an enemy of religion called Ubhay. He was riding a horse that he had specially looked after. He was full of revenge and was coming towards our Prophet. The Muslims wanted to stop him, but our Prophet stopped them and said, "Leave him and let him come." Ubhay went up to our Prophet and said, "Muhammad, today either you will die or I will." As soon as our Prophet heard these words, he got himself together and forgot about his tiredness. He picked up his spear and walked towards Ubhay. Ubhay didn't know what to do and started to run back. But our Prophet started chasing him and said, "Where are you going, you liar?" Ubhay couldn't save himself by running away. The spear our Prophet had thrown stabbed him in the neck. Ubhay tumbled down screaming. The enemy friends of Ubhay then ran up to help him. They took him away, but his wound wasn't bleeding. He could hardly bear the pain. Every now and then he would say, "Muhammad is going to kill me." Ubhay's friends didn't take his words seriously, but Ubhay knew that he wasn't going to survive and said these words. He said to me in Mecca, "I will kill you." Even if he didn't do anything but just spit on me, he would still manage to kill me. And that's exactly what happened. After some time, Ubhay passed away while screaming, "I'm thirsty! I'm thirsty!" Another miracle had now taken place with the death of this enemy. By the will of Allah, he could now announce this to everyone. The power of Islam was strengthening day by day. The darkness was becoming light, and hearts were filling with joy. The number of people becoming Muslims was increasing. The people of Mecca prepared an army of 10,000 men again. They were determined to occupy Medina and destroy all of the Muslims. Our Prophet had found out about these preparations and gathered all of the people of Medina together. He talked to them about what they should do, and most of them were saying that the city should be defended from the inside. A Sahabi called Salman al-Farisi had an interesting idea. He said that a trench should be dug around the city, and by voting the decision was made to go ahead. Our Prophet also supported this decision. He dug the first trench himself. The Muslims were uncomfortable with the fact that our Prophet was helping them in digging the trenches. None of them were happy by allowing our Prophet to do such hard work. Now and then they would say, "Dear Prophet of Allah, we will work and finish building the trench in time. You don't have to worry about working." But our Prophet didn't accept the offer and replied, "I want to work and share in the good deeds." The digging continued. At one point, the workers came across a very big rock. The rock had to be smashed into small pieces. But they tried and nothing was working. Instead of the rock being smashed, the shovels and hammers were breaking. The workers informed our Prophet of the situation and said, "Dear Prophet of Allah, we have come up against a big rock during the digging. We haven't been able to smash it. What shall we do?" Our Prophet took a sledgehammer and by saying, "In the name of Allah, Bismillah," he hit the rock and broke a third of it off. Again he said, "Bismillah," and hit the rock a second time. Another third of the rock smashed into pieces. He then said Bismillah again and hit the rock one last time. The last piece of the rock smashed into pieces. After this event, the Muslims together with our Prophet said, Allahu Akbar. The Muslims carried on digging without stopping and spent many of their days without food and water. They were struggling to find food to eat because Arabia had been struck by famine. The digging was still continuing. One day, Hadrat Jabir arrived at his home and asked his wife, I saw that our Prophet is extremely hungry. No one else could stand such hunger. Do we have anything to eat? His wife replied, We have nothing left other than that goat and some barley. Hadrat Jabir then slaughtered the goat, and his wife made flour from the barley. They put the meat into a pot and added yeast to the barley. They left the meat to cook in the oven, and then Hadrat Jabir went to call our Prophet. He warned his wife, We only have a little food, so don't make me feel ashamed in front of our Prophet. Hadrat Jabir went up to our Prophet and said, Dear Prophet of Allah, I have some food to offer you. Please come to my home and let's eat. Our Prophet asked, How much food do you have? He answered, Bread made of little barley and some goat meat. Our Prophet said smiling, You have a lot of good food. Then he added, Tell your wife not to take the bread and meat off the stove until I arrive. Hadrat Jabir was a little surprised, but in a moment he was going to be even more surprised. Our Prophet called, Hey, the workers in the trenches! Stop working! We're going to Jabir's house. He has a feast for us there. The Muslims gathered at once. They hadn't eaten anything for days, and they had no strength left in them. There was nothing Hadrat Jabir could do. His confusion was at its peak. The food that had been prepared was only enough for a few people. There was no chance that this food would be enough for all of these people. He went home, constantly thinking about it, and said to his wife, The Prophet invited all of the workers in the trenches. What are we going to do now? His wife asked, Didn't he ask how much food we had? He asked and I told him. Did you invite them or did our Prophet? Hadrat Jabir replied, I didn't invite them. Our Prophet invited them. His wife then took a deep breath and said, He knows better than you and must have something on his mind. Soon after, our Prophet and the other Muslims arrived. Our Prophet prayed for the meat and the bread to be plentiful. He told Jabir's wife, Call another woman that bakes bread. She can make the bread with you. Take the meat from the oven with spoon. Don't ever take the meat off the stove. With everyone watching in amazement, our Prophet took the bread out of the pot. He separated the bread into pieces and put some meat on each one. Despite the fact that all of them had eaten, the food wasn't running out. Later, our Prophet turned to Hadrat Jabir's wife and said, You can eat the rest yourself and give some to your neighbors as well. Everyone here is starving. Jabir talks about that day and says, I swear on Allah that nearly 1,000 people came into my house that day, and they all left the table feeling full. The meat and the bread still hadn't run out. Not only did we eat from that food, we gave some to our neighbors too.